So in this video, we're going to talk about why different countries are going to have different comparative advantages, and there's three main factors: natural resources and climate, factor endowment, and technology. So we'll start with natural resources and climate. Hawaii has a lot of pineapples, and that's because it's very warm in Hawaii, and pineapples were already grown there. So they're a natural resource that's grown in Hawaii, and it's very warm year-round. Pineapples really like that. They grow really well. Unlike another place like Alaska. There aren't very many pineapples grown in Alaska because it's very cold. You would have to make a greenhouse in Alaska to grow the pineapples year-round and then pay to heat the greenhouse, and they're not naturally available. So in Alaska, you may do other things like get salmon or raise cattle. Okay? So natural resources and climate are going to be different in different countries and allow for different goods to be produced. The second thing is factor endowment. So the United States has a lot of land, and we're able to spread out, and that allows us to produce things like food, grain, corn, other things across all of the land of the United States. And we also have big cities. So if we don't think about differences in the United States, there's different things that we can do in New York City versus the middle of Iowa. It might be better to start a tech firm in New York City than it would in Des Moines, Iowa, simply because there's a lot more people in New York City, so you're more likely to have people who are engaged in technology and able to work on computers in New York City than you would in a small town in southeast Ohio or the middle of nowhere, Iowa. And the third thing that gives different countries different comparative advantages is technology. The more technology you have, the more likely you are to be able to produce goods well. Typically, when we think about technology in the production possibility frontier, it's going to shift the whole PPF out. So countries with better technology are going to be able to produce more goods. In our example, so far, we've used trading cars for penny blossoms. This assumes that everyone in each country produces only one good, either cars or penny blossoms. This is called incomplete specialization, and there's two main reasons why this doesn't happen in real life. They're trade agreements and within country differences. So first off, trade agreements. There are no real free markets, just like there are no real free trade agreements. In almost every trade agreement, there is some sort of quota or tariff involved, and we'll talk more about those in later videos. The second and more prominent reason that there is no complete specialization is within country differences. So should the United States grow corn in Iowa? Yes, we do. That's very fertile land, and it's available. Not many people want to live in Iowa. But what about New York City? Should we be growing corn in New York City? Well, there's not that much land available because the land is very expensive and a lot of people want to live in New York City. So maybe it's not the best idea to start growing corn where we could put a much more valuable skyscraper. Should we grow peaches in Georgia or Montana? Right, they both have a lot of fertile land, but Georgia has a better climate for peaches, so maybe we should just grow peaches in Georgia and do something else in Montana. Just like, should we raise cattle in Texas or San Francisco? Well, West Texas is great for cattle grazing, and San Francisco, just like New York City, has a lot of very valuable real estate, and cattle take up a lot of land, so it's probably better to raise cattle in Texas than San Francisco. There may be a lower opportunity cost of making penny blossoms in a heavily populated part of the United States than there is in a lower populated part of the United States. So we wouldn't specialize just in cars. We might have some people making penny blossoms where it's a lower opportunity cost for them to make penny blossoms than for them to make cars.